About a year ago, I had someone sit down and explain to me some of the Christian origins of Halloween, and it changed the way that I look at this holiday. And it made me realize that we have a third option for the way that we navigate it as Christians, that it doesn't have to be something that is completely evil that we need to stray away from, and it doesn't also just have to be about candy, that it can actually be a holiday that helps us grow in holiness. And that's what it was originally intended for in the first place. So I want to tell you 3 things about the Catholic roots of Halloween and offer you some practical ways that you and your family can celebrate this holiday to help you grow in your faith. The first one is the idea of vigil. So we as Catholics have roots in Judaism, and the Jews celebrate their holy day, the Sabbath, on Saturday. But they actually start celebrating that day the night before. So when the sun goes down on Friday, that's when the Sabbath begins for them, and they start praying the prayers of Sabbath on Friday night. We, as a Catholic Church, do the same thing every week. Our holy day is on Sunday, but if you pray the church's official prayer, the Liturgy of the Hours, the prayers for Sunday actually start Saturday night. Every week, and we offer vigil masses on Saturdays. It's the same set of reading, the same prayers that will be prayed on Sunday. We're celebrating that feast or that holy day the night before. You can think of Christmas Eve, same thing. We're filled with anticipation, and we're starting to begin the celebration of Christmas the night before Christmas actually happens. And then I think the best example is the Easter Vigil. It's the richest liturgy, the richest mass that we have as Catholics, and it's not actually celebrated on Easter Day. It's celebrated the night before. But we as Catholics recognize that this eve, this night before, we're starting already to participate in the holiness of the day that is to come. Now, why am I talking about all of this? So Halloween actually comes from the phrase, the name Halloween actually comes from the phrase All Hallows Eve. What's the day after Halloween? November 1st, which is All Saints Day. So the night before All Saints Day, we as a church are supposed to be preparing ourselves to celebrate the communion of saints that is already in heaven with God. It's All Hallows, so All Holy Eve. That's what we should be thinking about as a church on Halloween. Nobody ever told me that as a kid, and I was so frustrated that I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. But we should be, even on Halloween night, thinking, okay, tomorrow we're going to be celebrating all these great saints. So something you could do as a family is to sit down with your children and talk to them about the saints. Talk to them about the fact that these people who have died are alive in heaven with God. You could talk about specific saints. You could have your children ask for the intercession of particular saints, and you can connect all of that, or you can start doing all of that the night before in anticipation for the feast that is to come. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this idea of kindness and prayer offered to the body of Christ here in the world, to the other people in our neighborhoods and in our lives. And it has to do with the history of trick-or-treating. So originally, trick-or-treating was actually a form of fall caroling. So for Christmas, traditionally, people would go from house to house singing Christmas hymns. This was something that people would do on All Hallows Eve. They would go from house to house and they would sing hymns, and they would offer up prayers, sometimes acts of service for the people in the house. And the exchange would be that these people would give them cookies or cider or wassail or something like that. And that was originally what trick-or-treating was. So you can still do that now, today, with your children. You can tell them, okay, we're going to be going trick-or-treating, but be praying for the people whose houses you go up to. You could even, if you feel really bold, ask the people if they have prayer intentions, or even tell them, hey, we're going to be praying for you. Again, if you want to be really bold, you could hand out Bible verses. I know people that do that. They say, hey, we're praying for you. Here's a Bible verse. Or you could just tell your children to be praying as they're going from house to house. But it's a way for us to be kind to our brothers and sisters here in the world and to lift them all up and to help them grow in holiness and help them move forward towards heaven. The last thing is the idea of prayer for those who are in purgatory, or prayer for those who have passed on that we hope are on their way to sainthood, or we want to pray and help move along on their way to sainthood. And I think this is really neat. And again, I didn't know that this was an origin of something that happens on Halloween. The idea of the jack-o'-lantern, the candles that we put inside of pumpkins were intended to be votive candles. So candles that were lit in memory of a loved one who had passed on. And they're a sign of our prayers for that person. Also, people would carve into those pumpkins either like a face to represent their loved one or something that their loved one was really fond of, to remind them to pray for that person. So this can be a beautiful opportunity for you to talk to your children about the fact that they can still show love to their family members or to their friends who may have passed away. That there's a way for us to still be connected with those who have died because they're still very much alive, and we want to pray for them and do what we can to help them grow in holiness and move towards heaven, that they might be saints in heaven with God as well. So these are some ways that we can really get back to the Catholic roots of Halloween and a way that we can grow in holiness during this holiday. Next week, Taylor is going to be talking more about All Saints' Day. And so as we approach All Hallows Eve and All Saints' Day, we will be praying for you here at Ablaze. Happy All Hallows Eve.